It's 7 o'clock and I would like to call this special meeting of Kimberley City Council for Monday, November 6th to order, held here on the homelands of the Ktunaxa peoples. Maurice, any late items?
There is no late items, Mr. Mayor.
All right, hearing none, could I have a mover to adopt? Councillor Royer, thank you. And Councillor Karen seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. All right, the formalities are quick tonight. I will mention, if this wasn't obvious already, we are live on YouTube tonight. So I would ask staff, as you're doing your presentations, to do it from the podium. Not sure if the podium's turned on, but it will be. Okay, so the purpose of the special meeting tonight is really to provide an overview of the current operations within the various staff organizations that we have here at the city. It's meant to do two things. One is provide a context for the budget discussion that we're about to get into. How soon, Jim? First meeting, kickoff meeting will be when?
Hopefully the second meeting.
Okay, so we're coming up here literally, within a couple of weeks. And the second is kind of a corollary of that, and that is to get a capacity assessment for both current and future council requests. I think you'll see as we go through the presentations here tonight, we are really challenged on the capacity front, i.e. the number of people in place to get the work done that we need to get done. And so as we move into the budget, we need to take that into consideration as we ask for things as a council. It's also important because as we take a look at where we're going to spend money next year, we need to take into account having the horses in place to actually run the race. So by the time we're finished this evening, I think we'll have a pretty good view on kind of where the pressure points are with the various departments, which will be important. And this is also the first real general overview that this council has had since we were elected last year. So looking forward, it should be an awesome evening. Anything you wanted to add, Scott? Nope. All right. As usual, just in case there's a call out, the fire department is up first. Take it away, Will.
All right. Mayor and Council, thanks for having me. Presentation will come on.
Great.
I guess we can start with, I assume most people have seen the smoke in the air tonight. We have been burning. If anybody's asking any questions, we've been burning out by the cemetery and up towards Pete DePlatzel Trail. We'll continue to burn over this week.
Conditions have been good.
Favorable.
Favorable.
Yep. Yeah. We'll see another change in weather, so we'll have a better venting tomorrow. So we'll see not as much smoke build up over the next couple of days. Yeah. And then with the snow on top of all the fire today, it's actually beat it all down and kind of help put out any issues that any citizens might have seen or residents might have seen around the area. So yeah, cool. Very good conditions on that end.
Awesome. I don't know what it is about where we live, but we get temperature inversions big time.
Yes.
Is it all in one big PowerPoint?
Yeah, it's
going to take a minute.
like opening the vault.
So do you have an answer for why we have so many temperature inversions?
I'm going to blame Bob Gray on this one. He flies in and the Vancouver weather comes in with him. So
just like that.
Yeah, just like that.
Blame Bob.
Yeah.
It's quite big. Sorry about this. Been distracted.
Did. I know, where's Dave? our bandwidth is challenged.
I could. Yeah, I could just start if we just wanted to go with who's on in front of us. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, let's start that way while Maurice is,
You want it on paper?
I have it on paper.
so we're good.
Fire department to initiate a bumpy start. Let's start there. All right. Nope. All right.
The public thanks you very much.
Have a clicker?
I do. Let's see if it.
There. There. That's-
Where am I pointing towards, Jan?
Okay. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna have to go.
So we'll talk about the mission of the fire service, and the primary mission of the fire service in Kimberley is to save lives, protect property, and to also protect environment. Just a little bit of an unknown or unthought about is protecting the environment. So I'll just say next slide if you can. I'm sure it's a me issue too. Which of all these the missions that we work on, saving lives, protecting property and the environment, is done through prevention, education, suppression, and rescue services provided by full-time staff and the call rank staff. Next slide. We'll start with our facilities. The one we see in front of us is Station 1, which is our headquarters, built in 1957 with minor modifications to the hall. We've had an addition a very long time ago added on towards the Mark Creek Market side of the fire hall. It houses 6 apparatus, one being very brand new, and it is the main response area for our paid on-call staff. The main staff that respond to the fire hall come to our main hall. Next slide. Station 2, so located in Marysville, across from the school. It is it's our satellite hall. This is not staffed. It was built in 2004. It has 3 bays and houses 2 of our apparatus. One being the ladder truck, which is restricted due to size to that hall, as well as our latest engines moving down there, 2303, because of the new purchase. Next slide. The training center. So this is kind of an anomaly. This is located on tech land on 400 Jim Ogilvie Way. It has an auto extrication area, modular C-cans for a burn building, a search building, natural gas props, and C-can storage areas. Next slide. Moving on to our apparatus. We have 2307, which is our aerial ladder. It has a pump engine as well on this, so it helps to our fire rating grading. Engine 2303, which is now a little old for this slide, but it's being moved into our second line engine. So with the new purchase of the engine or receiving of the engine. We have 2305, which is a wildland engine, and 2301 is now the new number for our latest engine, which will be stationed down at Station 1 headquarters. And 2301, the old conventional forestry truck, will be moving to retirement, hopefully off to a better land. Next slide. So 2306, this is our emergency transport vehicle. This is for the fire department to transport to the hospital any of our staff. 2308 is our SUV and command unit. This is our chief's vehicle. This is what we'll take home at night to respond to any emergencies. And 2304 is an F-350 pickup. It's a support vehicle. So if we have to doff any of our turnouts that are contaminated, we'll put it in the back of that pickup truck to keep the rest of the cabs clean. Next slide. So looking at our department structure, we have the fire chief, which is senior management. 3 assistant chiefs, all portfolios being prevention operations training. And then underneath the operations portfolio, we have currently 24 paid on call staff or firefighter staff.
So of the assistants, who does what, who?
I'll get into that, Don.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
for
Thank
sure.
you.
Legislative and regulatory and guiding agencies. We have the BC Fire Services Act, BC Fire Code, the Building Code. Those two are enforcement on inspections. We have the provincial governing body, the BC Office of the Fire Commissioner. We have WorkSafe BC. We have Canadian Occupational Health and Safety Regulations. We have Fire Underwriter Survey, or FUS, and National Fire Protection Association. I'll speak a bit to the Fire Services Act. This is what gives us authority on behalf of the province or the fire commissioner during our inspections or fire investigations. And then if we look at FUS, which is the Fire Underwriter Survey, this is the body for our fire insurance grading. So with the purchase of the new engine, we go back to them, and this is what keeps our insurance ratings or insurance payments low for the public. It is also why we have an age limit for apparatus. And speaking to that, it talks about our water supplies and the composite department for our building rating, saying if we need to double our building code standards for a 10-minute response map. So that's what the underwriters would be. Go to the next slide. So just really condensing the fire service bylaw, this is what gives us our teeth as the fire department and where our jurisdiction lies. I'll just talk about services right now. We have fire prevention, structural fire suppression, confined space rescue, technical rope rescue, slope rescue, automobile extrication rescue, hazardous material response and mitigation, wildfire suppression, first aid services for employees, and for normal calls being a motor vehicle accident, we would provide first aid if the ambulance attendants aren't there. Public assistance, so that could be a senior smoke detector program where we go and replace batteries on the smoke detector or replace the smoke detector itself. The other emergencies are non-emergencies. Public services is just kind of like an idea of, hey, this square box doesn't fit in this or square peg doesn't fit in a circle. So it just gives us the ability to move left or right if we need to. Next slide. So our department role, again, we'll come back to this, is emergency response, fire prevention, fire training, fire operations, and emergency management. Emergency response being for everyone, emergency management as well, and then we have our portfolios, and we'll dive into that now. Next slide. Training. The training officer is mainly dealing with call ring training and coordination and instruction. We need to meet the BC minimum training standard on compliance. This is this is designated by our full service designation within the fire service bylaw. So if we look at the actual training competencies for the fire full service competency, we have a bunch of numbers, but we look at our standard for firefighter, interior, suppression, fire officer, fire service instructor, hazmat operations, incident safety officer, ICS 100 and 200. This is what we're working towards, be that full service within the city. This usually totals around 270 hours to complete all these courses. And then we look at how much training actually is available during our weeks, and we probably have about 90 hours. So we try to condense that and get our call rings to go out and take training externally. Next slide. We'll look at the operations portfolio. They look after operational checks, hall maintenance, annual certifications, that being air sampling, hose testing, and ladder testing on that end of it, and pump testing for our engines to make sure we're still meeting that for a service grade. They have SOP and SOG review, and they head the OH&S committee on the employer side. They are the link from the call rank to the full-time staff. Next slide. Prevention. We have public education is one of our big points. We have a very long week, it feels like, for fire prevention week, where we go to all the schools and then have all the kids from around come and see what we have at the hall. We do business license inspections and fire inspections. We aim for around 300 fire inspections annually. The fire prevention officer looks after building plan review and the senior smoke detector program. Slide. Fuels management. This consists of project coordination, grant application, and report submitting, prescribed burning, and stakeholder engagement. This is a uncommon practice within the fire service that we're seeing become more and more to the front of BC. I'll speak a little bit about what's happened in the last couple of years for fuels management on this. In 2021, we completed a 16 hectare thin pile slash program. We had a 27 hectare prescribed burn on the books that we still had to prep for, but we weren't able to complete. In 2022, we had a 13 hectare slash pile thin. Again, 2022 on a separate project, we had another 16 hectares. And then again in 2022 as well, we have another project for a prescribed burn of 21 hectares. In 2023, we have another 26 hectares of prescribed burns on the books. So a lot of these, when I say, hey, this is when we had this in 2022 or 2023, they're rolling with extensions to these projects. So it'll be about a 2-year to 3-year limitation on these projects. We have a 52-year thin slash pile, 52 hectare thin slash pile project going on right now up north of the campground. And any thin slash pile, we go back and burn. So it's 52 times 2. Hey, the fire department comes in now, we make it as cost effective to the grant process and the ability of how much hectares we can burn. So we'll go and burn afterwards on the fire department side. Next slide. Emergency management. I'll speak very lightly to this just because a lot's changing in the background. Emergency program coordination. So prevention and mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. Those are the 5 practices in the emergency program. We focus on training coordination and legislation adaptation. So we saw the change in the business continuity planning that council approved. So that's another adaptation. We're moving over to the right to make sure we're getting ahead of the game on that end of it. Next slide. Highlights. Mutual aid agreements used between Kimberley Fire Department and Cranbrook Fire Department. I'm not sure when the last time the mutual aid agreement was used, but at the St. Mary's Band Fire, the fire department from Kimberley was able to go support Cranbrook Fire and relieve them during the night ignitions of what was going on there. We had a delivery of a new fire engine. We're very excited about that. The emergency program business continuity planning objectives. And we instituted new fire code inspection technology. And we've noticed an increase in compliance with this change of technology. Next slide. Planning objectives to provide current and relevant training for the call rank staff and full-time staff. We're always assessing to make sure staff levels meet the community needs and providing equipment to keep our firefighters safe and protect our community. The fire engine would definitely fall under that point. Next slide. Ensure that policies, procedures, and guidelines are relevant and effective to ensure safety and efficiency. And we're going to be working on developing shelf-ready projects from the fire department. Hey, we're ready to go if a grant is available, is what we're going to be focusing on over the coming years. I'd like to say thanks. And if there's any questions for the fire department overview,
Always. Thanks for that, Will.
no problem.
Go ahead, Councillor McBain, then Councillor Roberts.
Thanks, Chief. One thing I noticed that's not on here, Will, that I know you guys are involved in is first response. Be curious to know, well, I think I know why it's not listed on here, but I think you mentioned at one point there, it seems like there's some gaps that could probably be filled in that regard as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, like if we're talking emergency responses in like medical response, it's definitely, I wouldn't consider it a gap. It would be more of a availability for it. The fire department itself is kind of an outlier in BC, just not doing it. At one point we we're not anymore. And I'll speak to at one point a very long time ago. So yeah.
But you are involved in first response. I mean, if you have to.
We are. If we talk about ambulance assist, so if an ambulance call comes in where they need support to lift a patient, if they need support assisting with cardiac arrest, we'll go support them. It's not necessarily something we should be doing, but it is something we're doing to support our.
Yeah, I think that's what you're hearing on right there at the end. So yeah, be curious to, I'd like to kind of explore that a little bit further and help you and support you guys a little bit more in that regard. So it's not for tonight, but
yeah,
thanks.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two questions. Neither one will take long. Your three assistants, prevention, operations, and training, are they specialists, or could any one of them do any of those things if given the job?
Yeah, no, great question. We try to have a lot of overlap within the portfolios. So if my training officer is away, my operations officer knows what's going on. And we're making it more fluid with the department. If someone steps away, someone can fill in.
So they've kind of all gathered that training. My second question has to do with what you just said about the hectares of burn. There is a sense that I had because of all the dryness that some of the burns weren't taking place. The ones that you referred to have all taken place. Is that correct?
There was one that I didn't. It wasn't. It did not happen. It was a 26 hectare burn within the nature park near Duck Pond this year. Did not happen. It was just a stabbing issue and a burn window issue. We're just having, and not necessarily with the fire department. It's with PCWS. They're busy at the end of the season when burn windows happen, and they won't always be able to assist us or coordinate with us. So
Well,
it just kind of shuts a window down.
Well, I'm happy to hear that most of them are completed. Thank you.
Yeah, we've had a very good rate of completion on most of our prescribed burns.
Thanks, Councillor Roberts. Further? I have two questions, Will. The first has to do with annual change in the call ranks. How many go and how many come over the course of a year?
It's often yearly dependent. I feel like we're still catching up from about 3 years ago. We had a mass exodus within about 50% of the fire department over a span of 2 years. But I'd say we probably lose annually about 5 members. They find out how much of a commitment it actually is for training, for call response, and all and other items from the fire department.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Cool. And can you put names to the 3 assistants in terms of?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I would love to. I would love to give them names. My prevention officer is Chad Karan. He's been with the department for the last, I believe, 3 years. Chad, if you're listening, I don't remember 100% how long you've been here, or Trevor or Chris. Trevor has been there longest night. He's been with us for 4 years. He is the operations portfolio. And then Chris Sellers is our newest full-time hire. He's looking after training for the department. And once again, if I did mess any of that up and you guys are listening, my bad.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Will. Go ahead, Kevin.
Great report, and super excited to see the new unit there. It's awesome. I just wonder if we look into and or weigh the scale just with venting in the inability to get the perfect weather here for things lining up. If we've looked at the ability to grind lots of these piles that are quite easily accessible and in town, which is going to reduce smoke in town and also complaints from citizens. If there's some sort of scale or program that we could initiate, or if has been any talk of that at all.
I know there's been a lot of chipping done in the past, but it's become not cost effective for we'll say like hectares treated. When we look at and I say we did not end up burning or missed a burn window, I'm talking specifically to prescribed burning. But if I look at slash pile thinning and burning, it can usually be completed. Even right now, we are probably able to complete about a 5 hectare area today with only 4 staff. So not an issue on that end, but.
All right. Thanks, Will. I appreciate the update.
Thank
Good
you.
job. Community development and communications. Sounds like Pam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
ahead,
Hello,
Pam.
council. Shorter than Will. My name is Pamela Welch. I am the manager of communications and community development here at the city. I have a few short slides. It probably won't be that long. I am split into 2 departments. I am one person with support from lots of other people. Scott and I handle the communications, and then I work with all the other departments on developing communications tools, tactics, and how we're going to tell the community about everything that we're doing. So that's essentially, as a communications department, we act as a conduit between the city and the public, figuring out ways to inform them on various projects that are going on with the city. So that entails communications planning. So for larger projects, such as the curbside waste collection project that we just did, we did develop a broad communications plan that went with lots of grant applications and supported those applications. Now we're following that plan. You can see some of the assets here. A lot of you have received some of the assets in the mail this week with your latest utility bill and their schedules for the 2024 curbside collection changes. So yeah, it's a little bit of a fun, it's a fun department in that I get to put all these cool things together and tell people about all the things that are going on. I handle the city's website, which is probably one of our largest assets in the communications department. It's ever changing. It recently has changed entirely. A company named Breeze developed this website for us. And I work with all the departments to update everybody's pages and make sure everything's correct on there. And like I said, it's always changing. We also handle the 3 social media accounts that we have with the city, which is the Facebook page, the Instagram page, and our Twitter page. I refuse to call it X. And we share that. That's probably one of the top ways that people find out about the various things that are going on at the city. We also handle media relations. Scott and I develop all of the press releases that go out to the media and handle any media requests that come in. In terms of media relations, it's a great way for us to be able to get our information out to all the various outlets, including the Bulletin, the Advertiser. We work with Eno. We send it to CROC. We send it to everybody that we know will share some information, and it's an extra ways to let everybody know what we're doing. And then, of course, we handle brand management. As you know, this brand was probably developed in 2015. And so we ensure that all of our assets are on brand and keep with what we've developed, which is an excellent brand. We've been written up in various media outlets, magazines about what a good place to be means to the province and the country. It's an excellent brand, so it won't be changing anytime soon. Next slide. We also handle public relations and community engagement, which is also a really cool aspect of my job. We recently developed a website with a company called Granicus, And that's engagekimberly.ca. We've seen thousands of people turn to that page to find out about various programs that are happening within the community. We have 10,000 hits on that page within this last year alone. And upwards of 1,000 people have actually commented through that page, which has been great, or provided feedback on various programs that we're doing, such as the new wastewater treatment plant, curbside organics, the downtown strategy that we're about to develop. Our department also puts together public engagement activities. We've been using Centennial Hall, and that's in person. And this year we've really been able to ramp that up with the downtown design strategy, as well as the Parks and Facilities Master Plan. So those in-person events have been excellent for feedback and creating those plans. Next slide. Community development overview is probably one of the best parts of my job. As you can see, I handle all of these grants programs through our community grants program. And we get to give out lots of money to all these very worthy organizations in the community, and there are so many. Right now, we have the 2024 project and event grant program is open. Applications are being accepted until November 15th. Shameless plug, so please get those in. Then we'll support the RDEK with the READY grant, or the resident directed grants. We also have the BC Winter Games Legacy grant under our curtain. We do discretionary grants for organizations that may need money on the fly or in a pinch, and we do individual travel expense grants, as all outlined in the policy. We also have the Jack Ratcliffe Commitment to Community Award that's been developed or was put in place 3 years ago. Jack was the first recipient of that award. Of course, the year after that, it was Mr. Clarence Yule, and last year, Carol Fergus received the award. We're accepting applications for that again right now until November 15th. So you'll see those nominees come forward soon. More in terms of community development, I've been supporting lots of not-for-profits. So year over year, it changes. It's always changing. Cayenne, or the Kimberley Youth Action Network, is one of the organizations that has been under my purview since I've started here. Lori Joe is the youth coordinator for that program. We act as administrator. We handle the group's finances of the funding that comes in from Columbia Basin Trust. And I get to work with the kids. You can see in the middle picture there. This was just before National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, where I worked with those youth and we developed an art installation in the plaza that we left for the weekend. I'm currently working with the Kimberley Cranbrook Food Hub. Councillor McGuire and myself usually attend those meetings. And I'm also working with a group of volunteers, namely School District 6 and Jen Means up there, to bring CBC announcer and author Bob McDonald to Kimberley in May 2024. So it's going to be a super fun event where we'll have kids come in the daytime and then the public can come in the night and listen to Bob McDonald on his new book called The Future Is Now. And he'll probably tell us a little bit about his CBC program, Quirks and Quarks, if you don't know. Other event management and support. We ran National Day for Truth and Reconciliation the year prior. We did do a Truth and Reconciliation walk. We will likely bring that back next year. We ran Canada Day the year prior, and then I supported Center 64 this year with their Canada Day events because that did fall on first Saturday. So I try to support those events where I can. The top corner is the Moose Hide campaign that I was able to support with some amazing volunteers. Next slide, please. Also, under my purview is the grant coordination. So I seek out grant opportunities that the city can make application for. All kinds of amazing things, including all of our active transportation infrastructure that's been put in the last couple of years, including the Lindsay Park sidewalk, more recently the Marysville sidewalk. Grant applications, of course, went in for the wastewater treatment plant, and then that top corner is the most recent active transportation application that we put in for sidewalk and an active transportation multi-use path along Knighton Road. So we're waiting to hear back on whether or not we got that one. I also manage and support conference planning and execution in 2020, we developed an amazing conference for the West Kootenay Boundary and Rocky Mountain chapters of the Local Government Management Association. It was going to be an amazing event, and of course, COVID-19 happened and we pulled that. We did get another amazing opportunity to offer this conference here in Kimberley in 2023, and it went off pretty well. This next year in 2024, we're going to have the Resort Community Conference here, and that's all the organizations that are part of the municipalities that are part of the Resort Municipality program, as Kimberley is one of 14 of those municipalities. Next slide, Mary's. My highlights are very, very high and broad. This year, the mayor and Scott and I attended sod turning for the Marysville Child Care Facility. When I first started in 2019, we were very lucky to develop a child care action plan that really outlined the desperate need for childcare options within the city of Kimberley. And then COVID happened and that guide went on the shelf and that plan went on the shelf. Nobody needed childcare anymore. And now we're back, we're out of that. And SD6 took that plan and managed to get 148 spaces paid for in a brand new building on Marysville property, Marysville school property. And I couldn't be more thrilled. Other community engagement, Engage Kimberley. Our community engagement efforts this year have been excellent. People are coming out, they're giving us their feedback. It's just been really, really incredible. And we've had a successful grant year, the Marysville Active Transportation. As I mentioned already, the Marysville Business Park program that's happening. We've received money for Kamiko Gardens, and all of these amazing departments have received money through our grant program, and they're executing it. And I get to drive by and look at it and say, "Ooh, look at what we did. It's awesome." The Plattsville parking lot kills me. It's so beautiful. Next slide. Department challenges. I am one person. Scott supports communications for sure. And we all kind of take a hand in supporting those grant applications and writing those grant applications, which is great. But of course, time is always of the essence. You're going to hear that through all of these departments, I'm sure. That's all I really have to say about that. Next slide. Highlights for this year is continue to increase public engagement opportunities. With some excellent volunteers, Emily Smith and Karen Rempel, we put together a Volunteer Kimberley program, and we're putting aside the Volunteer Connector that we had been doing with the organization out of Calgary, and we're developing our own. So we do have information on our website already. We've handed out cards and let all the not-for-profits in the community know about this. They're letting us know about volunteer opportunities, and we're putting those on the website. If anybody wants to volunteer, they can email volunteer@kimberley.ca, and we can help them find them a great volunteer activity for them in the community. I'm also working with the Kimberley Cranbrook Food Hub and the City of Kimberley on a food security action plan. We did make application for a food security action plan. We did not receive the money, but Cranbrook did. So they have graciously offered us to participate in the development of their plan because we are similar and very close neighbors. So we are getting underway with working on that within the next couple of weeks, and it'll take us into 2024. We also have a water conservation plan that's been put together in 2001, and one of the major initiatives of 2024 is to put together a communications plan to help us reduce the amount of water that Kimberley residents are using. We are one of the highest users of water in the province. So we're hoping that water conservation plan and the implementation of a communications plan around that will help us reduce that massive amount of consumption. I think that's all I have.
Last slide. Awesome. Thanks for the presentation, Pam.
Thank you.
Councilor McBain.
Well, I think Mr. Mayor and Councilor Roberts will appreciate this. Just reflecting back when in 2019 when Pam was brought on, we were debating about whether we needed a communications person. And clearly, I think you fit the bill, Pam. And I'm just really impressed, just from the communication side. You know, taking what we talk about here, and what the other part of the team does, and effectively get that out to the community in a digestible way, in a interactive way, is really, really been impressive. And I think, you know, it's when I first moved back to Kimberley, I never found that it was difficult to find information, but it's just amazing how much easier information is available to folks now, and it's just really impressive to see. So I think we made the right move, even though I cannot believe we had that debate back then. But anyways, really good. Thanks, Pam.
We always debate what we don't know. And at the time, we did not know. I think it's worth mentioning as well that in addition to everything that you've outlined here, Pam, you and your office tends to be the go-to for most things where people aren't sure where it should go. And you spend a lot of your time, you know, doing a little bit of triaging, you know, to that effect as well. Further, counsel. Go ahead, Councillor Roberts.
I'll just punctuate that as well. When I was liaising with the nature park and there was some discussion about what they could do, Pam kindly sat around the table with us in her own time and gave them some really constructive ideas and helped them produce that stuff. And she didn't have to do that, but she did, and she did an excellent job and was most appreciated.
Thank you for that. Last call. Anything else?
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Pam. Great presentation. Appreciate it. Next up, we have our Chief Financial Officer.
Communications to finance. It's not going to be nearly as much fun.
Okay, thanks for that, Jim.
Okay.
You're done.
I'm Jim Hendricks, Chief Financial Officer with the city. The Chief Financial Officer is one of two officer positions that must be established under the community charter by bylaw. If you go to the first slide there, this is our department structure. We've got 8 regular employees, all full-time with the exception of the reception cashier, which is a part-time position. The red squares are exempt employees. The green squares are unionized employees. I've got a really solid group, best in the city, I'm pretty sure. Krista is our Deputy Chief Financial Officer. Krista's been with the city for 18 years, I believe, and has just got a great handle on everything that goes on in that finance department. She does a great job of keeping everything on track and supervising the staff there. Our receivables clerk is Mel. Accounts payable clerk is Leslie. Patty's a senior cashier, and Heike is a reception cashier. All fantastic employees. It is a really good group there. Over on the other side, the manager of information technology is Dave, and our most recent hire is Aaron. He came on board in May of 2023. That was a newly approved position, which was we really needed that. Dave does a great job, but he's just one guy. And he wasn't able to take vacations. He was always getting called in on evenings and weekends just because he was the only IT guy. So having the extra body there just gives us that backup. It reduces risk in the department and it allows those guys to take on the projects that they need to keep things going. Next slide. So as a statutory position, there's another number of legislated responsibilities that fall under the Department of the Finance Officer. I'm not going to go through them all. It's just, they're all basic accounting functions ranging in anywhere from collecting money that we levy for taxes and utilities, keeping that money, investing it in approved investments. We expend the money in the manner authorized by council, which is done through the adoption of the financial plan bylaw. As noted by the mayor, we're just getting into that process now, financial plan deliberations. And we have to ensure accurate records and full accounting of all the financial affairs, of course. So we report everything in the general ledger, produce financial statements and an annual report at the end of the year. And really, it's just a matter of exercising control and supervision over all financial affairs of the municipality. So we collect about, I think we're up to $12.2 million in property tax right now. Operating budget on an annual basis, we spend about 20 million bucks, average about 8 million in capital expenditures every year. So it's a large corporation. There's a lot of money that flows through on an annual basis. So the next slide just speaks a bit more to the department role. So I've split it into 3 areas here. What we take care of, what has happened, what will happen, and what might happen. So the first section, what has happened, is all the basic accounting functions. So accounts receivable, accounts payable, recording of the revenues collected for property tax and utilities, expenditures, cash receipting and banking, preparation of the financial statements. Planning for what will happen, that's done through the financial planning process. It takes place on an annual basis. And asset management is a big part of that. Council had a presentation on asset management not long ago, and it really informs the financial planning or the budgeting process, and is going to be playing a larger role as we go forward here. The last section here, risk management, management of what might happen. So we, of course, carry insurance for on our municipal properties, our fleet. We also carry liability insurance for things like slips and falls. Cybersecurity, carry cyber insurance policy as well. This is becoming, there's just a brighter spotlight shone on cybersecurity every year. It's becoming a larger and larger part of the IT function. Things like dual factor authentication. Just in order to even get cyber risk insurance, I mean, there's a number of hoops you have to jump through before they'll even give you a policy. So it's getting more stringent every year. So the next slide just speaks to the IT role a little bit further. So Dave and Aaron look after hardware and software purchases, implementation and maintenance. Business continuity is a big part of what IT does. The department's done a really good job of making sure we've got appropriate backups in place. We have offsite backup in Cranbrook now. We're at the point now where if we had to leave town, if we were evacuated and had to bug out, we could essentially set up shop anywhere, tie into those servers that are offsite and operate just as if we were in City Hall here when it comes to accounting functions and essentially anything that we do on a computer at City Hall here. So we've come a long ways there in the last probably 5 years. IT also looks after electronic facility security, so the fobs that allow us to enter the building. Information security, again, the backups and IT support. Dave likes to joke that anything that has power, anything that plugs in, he's in charge of. We got an electric stapler. Chances are Dave's gonna be the guy that has to load it. But I'll talk a little bit later about a software that we implemented earlier this year that's really helping with the support piece of that. So the next slide just talks about the customers of the finance department, both internal and external. So internal, of course, we have mayor and council. We provide financial data and advice to council to help inform decisions, serve as a resource for financial information to the CAO office, and really finance touches all departments. We coordinate the budget process, so we're working with all of the managers through that process, and a lot of the reports that the managers write have a financial implication section, so I get involved in that as well and help provide input into that, review those reports for financial implications. External customers, the biggest is citizens. The front desk staff is often first point of contact, and the staff down there, they're expected to know everything. People come through the door and they see those folks at the front counter and they think that they should be able to answer any question that they're asked. They do a really good job answering what they can, and the questions they can't, they're really good about passing that along to the folks that can. But it's a tough job, and they do a really good job of it. We also, external customers or other levels of government. So we collect and remit property tax for the regional district, the regional hospital, the province for school tax, municipal finance authority, and BC assessment authority. So we, about 25% of the tax bill that people get, we collect that money and then we write checks to these various organizations. We don't keep that. So also outside agencies. So we're responsible for having input into the grant applications that Pam is working on, and often provide reporting for the applications as well. Next slide is just some highlights from 2023. So we had 5-year agreements in place for both banking services and audit services. Both of those expired this year. Council recently appointed the municipal auditor, BDO, for a new 5-year term. So we're just going through and getting the agreements put together on that. We also put a request for proposals out for municipal banking services. We're just in the process of evaluating the proposals that were received, and we'll be appointing a new financial institution for another 5 years as well. I mentioned earlier that the IT coordinator position, we filled that in May. Permissive tax exemption bylaw, that's cyclical every 4 years. For nonprofit organizations, we enter into new tax exemption bylaw that provides those groups a bit of a break by not having to pay property tax, just to help from the financial perspective. They all struggle and provide great service to the community, though. So that's just our way of kind of helping them out there. We also are migrating our municipal financial software to the cloud, which is going to help eliminate the need for on-site servers. It'll help with updates. We've also migrated the on-premises email exchange server to Office 365 Cloud. Microsoft discontinued support of that, so that was something we had to do. We implemented an IT support ticketing system, so all of staff, when something comes up IT related, whether they need hardware or software purchased or having issues with something, they can just click into that system and submit a request, as opposed to showing up at Dave or Aaron's door or giving them a call. It just allows those guys to prioritize the issues as they come in, as opposed to just bouncing around. It's really huge efficiency is being realized through that one. And we've also implemented electronic fund transfer vendor payments. So just cutting down on the paperwork again. We're realizing some efficiencies there and are moving more and more vendors to that. So that's working out really well. The next page on the challenges, and they're really organizational challenges, not specific to finance, but we're kind of the face of this. We're dealing with it a lot. And I think you'll see some of these in some of the other departments as well. Current reserve levels for capital expenditures is insufficient to get ahead of the maintenance curve. Just our infrastructure deficit, it's a big number. We're doing a better job every year of getting projects done, but coming up with enough money to do everything we need to do, I'm not sure that we'll ever get there. Revenue sources with which to fund operating expenditures are limited. So we're limited through legislation on how we can collect revenue to pay for expenditures. Maintaining tax rates at a level that balances property owners' demand for services with willingness and ability to pay. So as our primary revenue source, that is really what gets hit the hardest is property taxes when we need new revenue. And residents, citizens, they want to be provided with top-notch services, but everything costs money, so it impacts the tax rates. We have no control over the level of tax collection for other levels of government and outside agencies. We've been really trying hard to keep the tax increases to a reasonable amount. But some of the other organizations, and for good reason, the hospital requisition has increased by almost 300% over the last 4 years. The regional district increased by 12% last year. So they tell us how much they want us to collect. We go collect it and then we give the money to them. So despite the fact that we're really trying hard to keep our tax increases down, the amount collected for those groups, we don't have any say in. Property tax adjustments primarily impact residential property owners. And that's really just due to the fact that we've got way more residential assessment than we do business or industrial. And that's something that council is challenged with. And we're always trying to look for ways to increase, make that assessment mix better. And then maintaining business continuity in the event of emergency evacuation is a challenge as well. And as I mentioned earlier, we are making some inroads in that regard. Next slide, proposed 2024 work plan. So we're still hopeful on the grant funding for the wastewater treatment plant. If that comes through, we're going to have to probably shake up the financial plan a little bit to adjust the timing of the schedule. Going to have to adopt some additional bylaws and start preparing for the long-term borrowing. Every year we continue to refine the budget process. 2024 we'll be looking at possibly getting some dedicated budgeting software. Right now, the information that's gathered from the various departments is plugged into Excel spreadsheets. It works well, but it's there are some pretty slick systems out there that could make it a lot more efficient. And working with management to better engage citizens. I mean, Pam's really helped in this regard. Engage Kimberly. She's got that set up for the financial planning process. So it's a place where citizens can go. All the information's in one spot. As we have the budget meetings, they're added to that. It's just it's a great spot to go. So it's really helped. And the fact that we're televising the budget meetings now, we're recording them on YouTube, helps as well. Folks don't have to come out and physically join us in council chambers here to find out what's going on. They can just tune in. Maintain efforts to realize operational and IT system efficiencies. There are a number of legacy issues with financial software implementation, which happened a long time ago, but there were some misses when it was implemented, and so we continue to struggle with those issues and try to get that stuff cleaned up, just to get rid of some manual processes that are still in place and make the systems easier to use and get better information out of them. And then the asset management initiative it's ongoing. It's really an interdepartmental exercise. The operations department's doing a lot of work on this. Finance department has input into that, but that's not going to go away anytime soon. It'll be continual, and we'll be spending a lot more time on it in years to come. Yep.
We're going to get an opportunity to ask Jim questions over the next short while. I don't know if there's anything specific tonight. Okay, thanks for that, Jim.
Yeah,
much appreciated. All right, so we've been through 3 presentations so far, and we're falling a little behind. So
Mine's gonna
I
be
don't want you to
very
skip
fast.
anything. Just speak quickly.
I will do my best, and thank you for bearing with me as I'm clearly not operating at 100% today, so I'll try and be quick.
Thanks for being here, Lindsay.
You betcha. First slide. So we have a small but mighty team. It's myself, the manager of human resources. Jennifer is our payroll and benefits administrator. She is unionized, and we do have a casual payroll clerk in Jade Wright, and also Cynthia Smith, who's recently retired, has also opted to stay on as casual to help us out when needed. We manage a lot of different areas. So everything from compensation and benefits to training to labor relations, employee relations, occupational health and safety. It's a pretty big portfolio. So what we are really trying to focus on both this year and next year and going forward are just going to be creating efficiencies to help with records management and also working with our HRIS system to kind of automate more things so they're easier to look at versus pulling out paper files all the time and shuffling through hundreds of pieces of paper. So basically our day-to-day role is just making sure that the collective agreement is followed. dealing with grievances as they arise, and ensuring that our staff have access to all of the training and knowledge. So that is something we are also trying to capitalize on, is creating a better tracking system for employee training so that we're notified when any training becomes close to expiry, so we can get people re-entered before anything does expire. And that way it's better for us and better for employees as well. We want to make sure that we're employing a diverse and qualified workforce. Given the labor market struggles that everybody's been experiencing lately, it has been a bit of a challenge, but I still think we've been doing pretty good. We're here for managers. We help them if they're not always experts in every area. Not that we're experts in every area, but we are expected to know a little more. So we certainly try and help them, whether it's performance management, dealing with collective agreement interpretations, things like that. Also making sure that we're staying on top of payroll, benefits, and occupational health and safety functions. We will discuss one of the larger projects that we're working on, hopefully for completion this year into early next year, regarding health and safety. And we also help with staffing issues, always looking at succession planning, trying to keep our fingers on the pulse, I guess, of staffing needs upcoming, and any changes that might impact more than one department, as we've got quite a bit of internal movement that does happen. Big one that's coming up in 2024 is the collective bargaining process. So that will take up a lot of my time, but that is a big part as well, to ensure that we have an agreement that works for both staff and management. Next slide, moving into highlights. So we have started the process for the certificate of recognition. That is the big occupational health and safety project that we're working on. We are almost completed with all of the documentation preparation and hoping to start implementing in 2024. That's a very big project, so I have enlisted the help of all of the managers to help me with that. But it'll be a organization-wide implementation. We'll need help from staff, everybody at every level. We did hire some key positions. I can't believe I left out the IT coordinator, because he's been a huge help for me. So, but we've hired quite a few key positions. Those ones are typically more difficult to recruit for, given their specific knowledge base that's required, education skills, those types of things. Big thing that I'm trying to focus on, or tried to focus on last year and moving forward, is the policy review and update. We have a lot of policies, and they do actually require an annual review. So I'm trying to get caught up in that aspect and then move forward with an annual review on a schedule, so that they're occurring at different times and they're not all lumping down at once. As I mentioned before, we're looking at improving some HR and IT tracking processes, things like that. Basically just trying to streamline everything that we're doing, be more efficient when it comes to record keeping and looking up, pulling reports, that kind of thing. We're trying to utilize the VADM system much more than it has been in the past. A big part of that is actually building the system and building the things we're tracking from the back end, and trying to make that work for us. So that is a bit of a challenge, but we are getting there slowly. We were awarded and successful, I will say, in obtaining 2 employer training skills grants from Work BC, and they've said they will pay up to 10,000 per employee to a maximum of 300,000 per organization per year. So right now we've utilized that to assist 2 of our staff members in obtaining their Class 1 licenses. As everybody may or may not know, the cost of that did increase significantly in the last few years. So this allows us to help build our workforce without such a big out-of-pocket expense to staff. Department challenges that we've had, recruitment for certain positions, as I mentioned before, depending on skill set required, education, that and the labor market has shrunk considerably since COVID. I'm not sure where all the people went, but they're not looking for jobs right now. We are also looking at improving the health and safety experience rating and decreasing our premiums. That has proven to be a bit of a challenge. We're hoping that with the implementation of the CORA project, that this will hopefully start decreasing, and we'll see returns from that. Another problem that we are facing, and whether it's due to leaves of absence or just a shortage of qualified employees, we do have several departments that are fairly short-staffed. So we're trying to do as best we can, whether it's recruiting casual employees to fill those gaps, or just finding the right people to fill those gaps. And as well, getting people back to work as soon as possible if they're on a leave. That's very important to us as well. Next slide. For 2024, so as I mentioned before, we are starting the collective bargaining process. again, focus on updating the city policies and working with WorkSafe BC to ensure that we're implementing that certificate of recognition program and the new occupational health and safety program as well. There are financial incentives involved with that, but right now my key target is to really improve the health and safety issues here at the city.
Awesome. Nicely done. Thank you, Lindsay. Great presentation. Council, questions or comments? Covered every base.
I didn't speak too fast.
No, that was awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I'm going to excuse me.
See you later. Thanks for being here. Okay, operations. Nick. Given the size of the department, you can have a few extra minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. You all know me. I'm Nick Morissette, the Senior Manager of Operations here at the City of Kimberley. Been here 5 years now and 1 year in this current role. So I'm here to give you an overview of the department. I do have Rob, Ryan, and Nicole here as well to kind of get more in depth into their respective departments. Slide, please. So what is the operations department? It's a pretty big umbrella, as I think most of you know. So high level, it includes roads, utilities, parks, and facilities, as well as engineering. Next slide. So a little bit more in depth into each of these departments. So the engineering services, we have surveyors in-house. We do some design in-house as well, just kind of smaller projects, repairs, small capital projects. We have the ability to do that in-house. A lot of it is our feeding towards our asset management initiatives and asset data collection. And then, of course, the GIS services. We did bring on a GIS personnel shared with planning this year. And that's all part of the engineering department. And Shane's not here tonight, but he's the manager overseeing that engineering department. Just a high level there. So in terms of capital projects, which is mostly managed through the engineering, as well as we've been averaging about $8 million per year on capital projects for the last few years. Into utilities, so that encompasses all of everything in terms of operation, maintenance, for water, sewer, storm utilities. Also within the utilities department is our electrical maintenance employees. So they're looking after not only just the electronics and electrical stuff related to utilities, but all of our facilities and everything the city owns. Purchasing and inventory control is also within the utilities department. So that warehouse management and then the two purchasing clerks within that warehouse, looking after millions of dollars worth of inventory that we need on an ongoing basis to make sure that we have the parts required to do repairs and ongoing maintenance for all of the infrastructure we have out there. On the parks and facilities, so that's looking after the operation and maintenance of all of our facilities and parks out there. So that includes the aquatic centers, the arenas, all of our parks and general facilities. So City Hall, Fire Hall, Public Works Yard, for example. So that is also quite a large operation there, and a lot of buildings that we need to operate and maintain. Last but not least is the roads department. So again, this is looking after all of the operation, ongoing maintenance within all of our road right of ways. So primarily our roads and sidewalks within that. Also included in there is the fleet management. So managing all of our vehicles and equipment to perform our jobs. And we have 3 mechanics as well, full-time on staff to take care of all of that equipment. And lastly is the solid waste collection and disposal. So that one has grown, tripled in size in the last few years. So that's our garbage, organics, and recycling. We look after that. Next slide, please. So in order to make all this happen, we have a fairly large team. And I think our team might give Jim's team a run for the money on best team in the city here, but we can talk about that later. So as you can see there, it's just about 50 full-time staff and a handful of seasonal and about 28 casuals. So most of the casuals are the lifeguards at the pool, and then a handful in operations for roads, utilities, parks, and facilities. Next slide, please. So some highlights for 2023. I'm not going to get into the specific projects for the other departments, but kind of just try and touch on some of the highlights overall for operations. So very happy. We've hired a new roads manager for this year, starting this year, sorry. So Ryan has joined the team, freshly imported from Calgary. He moved his family down here, and we're very happy to have him on board to bring his experience and knowledge to help manage the roads department. We've been working on a new GIS system for the last year, and we are actually very close to rolling this out to the public to have a public-facing mapping system which is going to replace our old legacy system. So within the next week or so, watch for an announcement on that, but that should be happening very soon. And we have been working with the planning department on that one as well. And that's that kind of bottom shot there on the slide. The downtown design strategy, so that's been ongoing for several years. I think we're calling this phase 2 of that, and we're getting close to getting a plan together. We've had several engagement sessions with the community on that, and we're kind of in the process of finalizing all those findings and putting together a report. So see that soon. And then just touching on some of the grants here, I think Pam has mentioned some of those, but we've had a pretty successful year in terms of grants. So some of them listed there. Having ongoing from last year, years before, and continuing through this year, and some of those will continue into the years to come as well. So some of the pictures there, sorry. So the top one is that Marysville School Active Transportation project there. And then I threw a picture of the Lions Bridge in there. That project's about 3 years in the making, just in terms of design and permitting process there, just to redo some abutments and lift it up there. So I thought it was worthy of a picture in there. Next slide, please. So significant departmental challenges. These are the kind of things that are kind of high on my list and keep me up at night at times. We've been talking about the first bullet point there in the last few meetings, and it's been touched on with some of the other presentations there, but the asset management challenge and our journey to get to where we need to be is ongoing and will be ongoing for the next few years. But I think we all kind of know we have a large infrastructure deficit, and putting together those formalized plans and ensuring that we're prioritizing the money that we do have available to spend in the most effective way possible to ensure mitigating risks and chiseling away at that infrastructure deficit. Second one there is staffing. I don't think you've heard me talk about staffing in terms of my department here as of yet, but I think it's kind of been alluded to several of the presentations here, and yeah, we're fine, like everybody else. We're finding that we're increasingly becoming at capacity or over capacity. So in the next year or so here, I'll be working with our team to kind of figure out where those gaps are and work on a plan to help supplement or restructure staff in order to be able to best meet the needs going forward. Obviously, we don't want to see that translating into an increase in taxes. So we need to come up with a strategy that's going to work to help meet the needs without increasing revenues from the tax base, or minimizing those increases as much as possible. A couple other things I noted there on staffing. Some of it has been touched with Lindsay as well. Succession planning, retention, recruitment. So these are all things that we're dealing with on an ongoing basis. We all know the economic outlook right now in terms of increasing costs and all that, and we are feeling the pinch on that as well with our staffing. People are going off looking for higher wages or whatever it may be. And then on the flip side, trying to fill in those positions and finding qualified people is a struggle. So That's something that we've been dealing with quite a bit of late. I don't know the solution to that, but it's definitely one thing we're working with. And then, of course, the collective bargaining is starting next year. This could, depending on how it goes, could have effects on employee relations and everything like that. So we're hopeful that we can work together and make that process as smooth as possible. But thought I would note that for going forward. Of course, we had to mention the new wastewater treatment plant. We are still waiting on the outcome of our grant application. However, in the meantime, we need to kind of be ready to pivot, whether that's building a new plant and potentially taking on probably one of the largest projects the city has taken on, and see that through to commissioning of the new plant, or kind of turning and seeing, okay, what are our other options in terms of funding, all in the same time, making sure that that existing plant that we have in operation right now maintains the operation and continues for the short term or the medium term, depending where we're at. We are under the microscope with the Ministry of Environment. They are putting increasing regulations on us in terms of monitoring and stuff like that. So, and of course, we're dealing with a plant that is just aging and getting harder to operate and maintain going forward, which translates into more money and expenditures down to that plant. So working to minimize that in the interim and ensure that we are staying within compliance is something that we're gonna have to stay on the forefront going forward. And of course, the last one I wanted to mention there, which I'm sure is on everybody's mind these days, is climate change. Just finished the worst wildfire season on record here in the province. Thankfully, we have not been affected here within the city. Definitely lots of our neighboring communities and everything have been affected, but I think it's really a matter of time for us. So I think we need to really be prepared and think about what that looks like when that disaster happens. That's not an if, it's more of a when, I would say. And for us, really, the big one on my mind is our watershed. And if a wildfire rolls through that watershed, what effect is that going to have on our drinking water? What are our other options to supplement that in the short term? Of course, we've been dealing with the drought situation in the province here as well. Thankfully, our Mark Creek watershed has been somewhat immune to that, but again, I think it's only a matter of time before we're really realizing those. So keeping those on top of our mind and really starting to put into place some contingency plans for when these disasters strike. I think first step in that is actually starting to put these natural assets onto our register and realizing these as assets and start putting some dollar values and looking at it in terms of, if we lost that watershed or if we lost that natural asset, what would it cost to replace that, and then what would the effect be on the community? So these are things that are top of my mind and really something that we got to start working towards going forward. Looking into next year, the asset management is continuing on our journey there. So the focus next year is really on bringing those facilities into the asset management plan, getting that information from the BCAs and bringing that into the overall picture. Of course, the new wastewater treatment plant, and it's a bit of a question mark on this one right now, but either way, we'll need to pivot on that and think of the next phase for that one. Lindsay mentioned the safety program overhaul. I wanted to mention it here as well in terms of operations. I think the operations department probably has the most impact with this initiative. We have the most employees out there and the most employees doing that higher risk type work as well. So ensuring we have a good program in place that's keeping our employees safe and going home every day is very important, and getting the buy-in from the employees as we develop this is key. Pam touched on this as well, and thanks to Pam for all her help with all the initiatives and projects that we've been working on and getting that communication out there. But a couple focus points for next year is the water conservation, as she had mentioned. We're looking at doing an ambassador program and getting that out again. People going door to door and getting the word out there and educating the residents for that, as well as the solid waste. We've had a lot of change in solid waste in the last several years, so making sure people are on board with it, answering questions they may have out there is an important piece of getting that buy-in and engagement for the community. Last one I wanted to mention there is kind of in relation to the staffing challenges, is just making sure we're continuing to work with our employees, keeping them engaged, keeping them trained. As we have had lots of turnover in our department, just the focus has been on training for the last little bit and making sure that we have a plan in place and getting that training to the operators and employees that need it.
Awesome.
That's it.
Thank you, Nick.
Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. We're going to go through each of the sub areas now.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Any questions, council, before we move into parks and facilities? All right, Nicole, it's all yours.
Good evening, Council. My name's Nicole Hallis. I'm the Manager of Parks and Facilities. I've been with the city now for close to 2.5 years, and I'd like to share what we're up to on a day-to-day basis and who we are. So the City of Kimberley's Parks and Facilities Department offers a wide range of services and to the services and facilities to the City of Kimberley's visitors and alike. Ultimately, I feel, as what we help make the community a good place to be. We are the places where community members and visitors alike form memories. We're the place that you take your kids to learn how to swim, pose in the Platzel for that photo around the beautiful garden in the summertime, or in the wintertime around the summer or the lights, or potentially participating in a soccer event during July Fest. We provide those fields and facilities. So ultimately, I feel like we're the funnest department that there is for the city, but we also have an opportunity to deal with the widest range of our citizens and visitors. So in terms of our department, Nick's made some mention to things, but we're in charge of all of the facilities within the city. So City Hall, the Fire Hall, Marysville Fire Hall, RCMP, Center 64, the Public Works Building, Library and Museum, Centennial Hall, Conference Center, Curling Club. We have direct operations at the Civic Center, Marysville Arena, and the Aquatic Center. We manage the license of occupations with our community partners at the Center of 64, Library and Museum, the Senior Center at Centennial Hall, as well as our friends at RCR in the Conference Center. Next slide earlier indicated that we have an operating budget of close to $3.4 million. Which also includes the maintenance and operations of our city parks, which include the Platzel, our sports fields, of most recently, Cominco Gardens, our baseball diamonds, the Platzels and the garden spaces throughout, the spray pads, the playgrounds, the outdoor ice surfaces, tennis courts, skateboard park, bike park, and our outdoor washroom spaces. Additionally, we've been managing Cominco Gardens. I alluded to that earlier, but I feel as if in the last 2 years we've gotten better at that management process. We've listened to the community in terms of questions and concerns that they've heard. We were able to successfully receive a grant to rejuvenate that space, which will see the improvements to the washroom spaces and just overall improvements to the gardens themselves. So we anticipate releasing that RFP for design in January of this year, looking for project to happen in April, May of 2024. Another element of the department is the invasive management plant program. We're required to do that as a part of the BC Weed Act, and we are entering the third year of that existing agreement. So we'll be looking to review that program and look to market to see if there are other contractors that may be potentially available for those services. In terms of staffing, we have a total of 43 positions. We have a number of part-time and full-time employees. We have our youngest employees at the City of Kimberley, as well as some of our senior vets. So we have 16-year-olds at an aquatic center, and I have staff members that have been with us for 30 plus years. So it's a wide range of needs from those employees. We have young, vulnerable employees that take that extra time, and then just working through succession planning with some of our senior employees as they move towards retirement. One of the issues that we've had over the years is rather than being preventative maintenance, we're very reactive in terms of our maintenance, given the portfolio size and the staffing restrictions that we do have. Unfortunately, I think we're going to be in this for a while, this process. I think we're doing a great job when it comes to gathering the information when it comes to building conditions assessments to give us an idea of what's happening to our buildings, but it's going to take investment and prioritization in order to get ahead of what's happening in our buildings. Some of our highlights in 2023 included the continuation of building conditions assessments. We have finished phase 1 of our boiler project at the Aquatic Center. You've seen the completion of Swan Park most recently. Gymnastics facility reconstruction's been happening, and it's on time and on project to be completed in the first quarter of 2024. Big and Little Coronation, we've made some improvements to increase safety there and worked with our partners at Little League Baseball to make some improvements for them. We'll be receiving a columbarium in the Kimberley Cemetery, as well as purchase some smaller equipment to help with operational efficiencies. We did a major overhaul on Fish Park, being one of our busiest parks, and the recent work that was completed there from our friends at Rotary. So that was great. Programming highlights, one thing we heard from the community, especially coming out of COVID, is they wanted consistent hours for some of our free access programming. So that would be the walking track. So one of our goals was to ensure that we were consistent on our times so people could get themselves organized. We've partnered that with a lot of programming. So that's when you'll see a lot of the free skate opportunities and things like that. So staffing only has to be in the building at certain times. Another highlight from this year was we were able to complete an inventory of our hazardous materials within our facilities. So as a requirement of WorkSafe BC, you need to have a inventory of all the potential hazardous materials within those facilities. So it was a big project. We were able to do that. Now staff, when they're doing work within those facilities, they're able to reference that and then perform safe work procedures based off of that information. We wanted to move to the slide regarding, we've got some statistical information. So we've mentioned it a couple times, but the Parks and Facilities Master Plan, we've started to receive some of the information back in terms of engagement or some of the usage within our facilities. So this was an interesting one that I thought I would pull out for you. So essentially it just reviews the times that have been booked and hours based off of prime or non-prime hours. Prime hours are typically 4 p.m. to close on weekdays and then weekends all day. So you'll see the capacity of bookings is about 3,000 hours at the Civic Center. Currently, we're booking up those prime hours, a capacity of 1,700. So we're close at 73%. There are gaps a little bit, but obviously the gap that will continually exist is the non-prime ice. It's very difficult to find users that want to book ice when kids are in school or users groups or adult recreation groups are at work. So those are difficult times. If you want to go on to the next slide. A few more stats on Marysville Arena. Certainly the facility is used less than this than the Civic Center. So I think what we'll see when we work towards a ice sustainability plan is a further deeper dive into this. I know a lot of people have the questions, are we a 2-rink town or are we a 1-rink town type thing? Are we a 2-sheet town? Are we a 1-sheet town? And I'm talking ice. And that's one of the biggest elements, but you will see that Marysville Arena is steadily used by both minor hockey and Cranbrook minor hockey. And then essentially is just surplus ice for adult users there afterwards. Next slide. So one of the major key takeaways from this is primetime ice is consumed. So when both rinks are operating, we are close to capacity. We have capacity to take more, but if one ice surface is closed, Marysville Arena, for example, opens later in the season, then when that rink isn't available, we are very full at the Civic Center, and there is an opportunity for others to take on ice. One of the keynotes I found was the Marysville Arena. Prior to the pandemic, our minor hockey association was the largest user group. Cranbrook Minor Hockey is now the largest user group of that facility. So things to think about in the future, or that conversation about the regional piece would be something that I certainly would take away from these. Next slide. So our aquatic center, for a community of 8,000 people, we are very fortunate to not have one swimming pool, but we actually have 3 swimming pools. That's the way I like to put it in my head. And that's very rare for a community of this size. And our community appreciates it because we're typically seeing anywhere from 9 to 11 swims at the facility per capita, and that the provincial average is 6.7. So a very highly used facility. It would also suggest that the pool receives a high level of regional participation levels. We often hear from our neighbors in Cranbrook that they enjoy coming to our pool for programming opportunities, as well as other areas in the region. And the majority of our use and visitation is recreation or leisure based, which includes swimming lessons as well. Next slide. Last week, we spoke in depth about some of the capital infrastructure demands for the facilities. So essentially, one of the challenges will be prioritizing those assets and future resources. One of the big factors that we have is the unpredictability of inflationary costs and future project costs. We've experienced this year. We had intended on doing a roof replacement project at the Curling Club and Public Works buildings, but the projects came close to $700,000 over budget. So we're struggling to figure out what's going on with the market when it comes to projects, and obviously doing local repairs as we can to re-release these projects to see if we have a better success with lower bids if we get out earlier to the market. Retiring staff and succession planning. Again, I mentioned some of those 30-year vets, so that also comes with a lot of knowledge that's up here. So the retention and sharing of that information. The Aquatic Center is a unique building, and staffing shortages here in Kimberley are certainly not unique to aquatics. It's a national issue. Typically lifeguards, if we can maintain to have a lifeguard to 2 to 3 years, I'm really happy with that. It's sort of the nature of the beast. You're 16 years old. It's a high school after school job, or maybe you want to get into aquatics a little bit more, but then you're done when you go to college. So we're constantly recruiting and retraining employees, adults wanting to become lifeguards aren't that often, but those are the people that can also provide our hours during the daytime. So you'll see actually a reflection of this year was after the summer, we were forced to change a lot of our hours at the Aquatic Center, which is reflective of high school students working. So after school and on the weekends, and we have very limited time during the day because of staffing shortages, because of those type of things I just talked about. And then the changing community priorities. I think our parks and facilities plan will give us a great document to guide us into the future, but always keeping in mind or using that as a reference point, I think, when we navigate the projects into the future. Next slide. This is our 2024 work plan. I apologize, it was a little typo on my end. So continuing to create a culture of leadership and respect in the workplace with a team first attitude. It's a busy department with lots of moving parts, and if we're not working together as a team, it won't be successful. Implementation and the prioritization of the Parks and Facilities Master Plan. Attempting to complete the prioritized projects within the building conditions assessment. So we're mitigating risk and addressing any maintenance issues that we can get on top of before they become larger issues. Looking to replace the roof at Public Works. Our Cominco Gardens project, which I spoke to earlier. We'll be working with our partners at Center 64 for the creation of a stage there, as well as a landscaping project in the adjacent parking lot. Working to complete an ice sustainability plan so we have a better understanding of how to manage our ice-related facilities into the future. Continue to improve training as it relates to health and safety for those employees, and always replacing our fleet with environmental technologies in mind. If anybody has any specific questions, I'd
Thanks, Nicole.
be more than willing.
Awesome. Appreciate the presentation. A lot of moving parts happening right now.
Yes.
Council, questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, time to talk about roads.
Well, Mayor and Council, how are you?
We are awesome.
So I'm brand new here. I'll give a little introduction about myself. My name is Ryan Reynolds. I'm from the city of Calgary. That's where I was born and raised. I worked for the municipal over there for about 10 years as a leader in multiple departments. And prior to that, I had 5 years of road building experience. So it's led me to being here, and thanks for having me.
Great to have you here, Ryan. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. So a little bit about the department role. So the things that we're looking at in our group, the improvements and maintenance of our roads, laneways, trails, sidewalks, and parking. We also manage and maintain the equipment and fleet. And we've also have the solid waste program management, which is our garbage collection, our organics collection, which we do in-house, our recycling collection, which we have contracted, and the bin management, which you saw where everyone had the explosion of bins everywhere. The stormwater management, so we have, in regards to surface runoff, erosion control due to overland drainage, and our roads right of way maintenance in regards to animal control and any problems on the right of ways.
We have a lot of those, don't we?
You've got enough, yeah. No, that's great. Department overview. So 100 kilometers of roadways, 26 kilometers of sidewalks to maintain, plus we have a plus 36 kilometers of pathways and growing. We have our 12 operators, our 3 mechanics. The fleet here, we have over 90 vehicles over all the departments and heavy equipment. We have a 26% of fleet greater than 20 years old, and the average age reaching about 16 years with a median of 14, which we're actively improving. Over 3,200 residential garbage, bi-weekly pickups now, and organic pickups weekly. Our staffing status, we have 15 full-time and 3 casuals. We have it in with a chief operator. So we have 2 of those, 1 in the fleet and 1 with the roads. We have our Op 3, which is our highest operating position. These operators are trained into running all the equipment, but specifically differentiating with the grader and the excavator. We have 5 operator 2 positions. This is what the majority of our crew consists of, and they run the most of the equipment, and they're very versatile, so we use them for abundance of all the operations. And we have our operator 1, and these positions require class 3 to join, so it's a little bit easier to join. And usually this is a leap off to the op 2 position, but we have it as needed for handwork and things like that. And then we have 2 full-time mechanics on board. Some of the highlights from 2023, we rolled out the organics program with the distributions of bins and the delivery of the truck, setting the schedule, working with Pam. And we found that this was quite successful rollout. A lot of moving parts, but we think it went really well. Jim Ogilvy improvements, we've had that where there's still, we're just about ready here. The new sidewalk implementation next to Marysville School at 309th Ave and the parking lot at the Platzel revitalization. Our 2023 paving program, where some of the places addressed were Alpine Crescent, Swan Hill from 95 A Street to the bin wall, Ross A Street and Dogwood Drive. So just a lot of overlay and fixing of deteriorating road. And our introduction and implementation of our infrared pavement heater and hot box. So the picture provided, that's our pavement heater where we just we lay it out. The propane heats the asphalt that's existing so it gives us the ability to utilize it, and then we can just kind of put new material in there, and it keeps the cost cheaper, and it seems to be working quite well. So we've been putting those patches in throughout Kimberley. And sidewalk improvements where we had a major, we were more focused on Blarchmont, where we laid out some new concrete. Some significant departmental challenges. So succession planning seems to be our biggest one. We're having difficulties filling our operator positions. Our qualifications for Op 2 and Op 3 are a Class 1 license. It can run an operator $15,000 approximately to get that training. Luckily, we have that new grant now where we have the 10,000, but it has been shown to be quite difficult in that regards. It's as an entry point for staff wanting to move higher, and as well as finding external candidates to fill these positions. And in regards to that, training and certifications, we've also seen a high turnaround in the last couple of years. It's a bit of retirement, and it seems to be a lot of staff movement internally, which creates a team of new operators. So they're kind of coming in and filling old spots, but with that, we have the quite new operators. So we're having to spend more time training from the beginning and all the operations that we have moving forward with them, trying to get them up to speed. And with a new workforce, we find that getting our work completed on time takes a bit more time and coaching. And capacities for work. So currently we're staffed at 12 full-time operators, but this unfortunately does not take into account the average leave time, which can equate to approximately a month plus per operator per year. So due to vacation time and all the sick time and new green staff, we're running into problems ensuring that we can complete our programs on time. So next to that, infrastructure. So our Peaks to Platzel Trail, we're having some issues over there with the hill kind of sloughing off, and trying to figure out what to work on with that. Our Mackenzie Street Bridge and our aging Marsden Street Bridge, just the wear and tear on these. And last, fleet aging equipment, which we've been working on actively, which has been going quite well. So we've been addressing that aging fleet, and we've definitely been having some success. Our downtime seems to be improving because of that. So it's great seeing that, and we're actively moving forward with that. Next slide. And proposed 2024 work plan. Some of the proposed plans will be a Knighton Road realignment at 103rd Ave in Knighton. And also grant the pendant active transportation next to that on Knighton Road. We have fleet replacement. So some units that are coming up there, Unit 36 in roads, which is a grader unit, Unit 79 in parks, which is a cargo van, and Unit 10, which is a one-ton truck for sewer. We have our annual road rehab, some potential areas, Weimer Street, 303rd Street. And we've been looking into solutions such as spray patch for Rotary Drive, Levers, and 200 block of Higgins, and installing some RFBs, rapid flashing beacons, up on Rotary Drive for pedestrian cross. That's it. Thank you very much.
What's the spray patch you're referring to? Is that what they were doing on Wallinger there?
Yeah, so the spray patch on Wallinger, what it is, it's a tack coat and a bunch of small rock. And what it does is it will seal in all the cracks to keep the water out, and we can actually utilize it over top of our existing cold patch repair, which we found we couldn't do with hot patch. So it seems to be effective so far. We're going to see how it lasts for the winter.
Yeah, I was impressed to see you guys taking that on. So
Thank you.
Thanks. The annual residents. Certainly on the residents, thanks, Woody. On the resident side of things, this roads are the one place where taxpayers can see where their money's going. And it's really, really important. And this past year, this past summer, I don't think I've ever had more comments from the general public about the great work that staff are doing on getting the roads repaired and patched. Just great comments coming all summer long. So great job on working with not a lot and making it go a long way.
The crew's been really fantastic, and thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Ryan. More to come. All right, Rob. Mr. Utilities.
Mr. Utilities, last of the three amigos. So I am Rob Topping. I'm the manager of utilities. I have been with the city since 2010 and in my current role in the utilities for the last 6 years. So department role. So the utilities department, we're responsible for all the works related to the operation, maintenance and safety for the water system. So that's the water drinking distribution, the sanitary sewer. We'll throw that's collections and treatment on that one. The storm sewer, that's a typo there, it should read storm sewer. The electrical department and the purchasing and inventory control. Department overview. So we are responsible for the water disinfection distribution system, provides us with the safe potable water throughout our community. We do this through two supplies, that's and disinfection. So that would be the Mark Creek and Matthew Creek systems. Got a picture of our dam up there. That is the Mark Creek Reservoir. Wastewater collection, that's done through our sanitary pipe network throughout the city. And all that is gravity fed down to the treatment facility. So wastewater treatment removes the solids, produces an effluent that can be safely returned to the environment, being the St. Mary's River. Stormwater collection, that's the control and dispersal to mitigate erosion and or flooding. Share this responsibility with the roads department. They're responsible for everything on the surface. Utilities are responsible for everything under the ground. The electrical systems, that would be anything, all the equipment, facilities, and all the city-owned lighting. And then all functions relating to the maintenance and adequate supply of inventory in order to keep our team having all the tools and all the equipment they need to get their jobs done quickly and efficiently. Slide. Staffing. So in utilities, we have a total of 14 positions, full-time and 1 seasonal. So with the water, sewer, storm, there are 7 full-time EOCP certified operators, EOCP being the Environmental Operator Certificate Program. And then the wastewater treatment facility, we have 3 full-time EOCP operators. Electrical is 2 journeyman electricians and a seasonal. Purchasing inventory, we have 2 purchasing inventory clerks. Next slide.
So for our 2023 highlights, we had the project down on Jim Ogilvy Way, which I'm sure everybody's aware of, 300th Street to 304th. This was capital infrastructure replacement that included water, sewer, storm, roads, the pathway, asphalt, sidewalks, everything under the sun was getting done on that project. Second Ave, Third Ave Lane, the 400 block up in Town Site. This was an infrastructure replacement with sewer. So we're putting in a new sewer that was going into the laneway to help us get rid of the issues we have there where we have some sewer that runs in the private properties. That's an ongoing situation in the 400 block up there. Alpine Crescent, that was a capital infrastructure rehabilitation. So it was utilizing a cured in place sewer lining so that we didn't have to do any real ground disturbances. We can get inside through a contractor and they were able to line the sewer. Saves us a lot of money if we can do those kind of projects. Significant department challenges. So I think this has been touched on a few times here, but it's an ongoing one. It's investing in the replacement of our infrastructure at a rate where we're actually gaining ground in the territory while staying financially responsible to the taxpayers. That's a difficult one. Another one I think Nick touched on here was the high capital costs with the replacing our wastewater treatment facility and trying to get this project completed while we keep the current facility operating within our permit requirements. And then we've got here, as I mentioned, the replacement of all the sewer mains that are running through private properties in the 400 block of the Town Site area. This involves a lot of coordination with all the parties involved, all the private properties and all that to try and get that moved out. And then the watershed management and filtration deferral. So this is something that we have to maintain through Interior Health Association. So it's basically a way that if we can stay away from that filtration system, then that's what we want to do because that's another thing that's very costly to implement. Next slide. Okay, proposed works for 2024. We have the Lois Creek pressure reducing valve station replacements moving forward. So this facility is kind of the heart of the entire water distribution system. So from there, it's broken out to several different pressure zones and feeds throughout the entirety of the city. So that's a pretty important piece of equipment and facility to have replaced. Mark Creek, we have Mark Creek Head Tank UV treatment facility design. That is to give us a second level of disinfection on the water system. Wallinger Ave East and St. Mary's Ave, these are capital infrastructure replacements of water line that we know we have leakage in those areas. So it's important to get those taken care of as soon as we can. And then there is the year one of the wastewater treatment facility construction. Again, that's grant dependent. Keep my fingers crossed. McKim Trail sewer trunk main capital infrastructure rehabilitation. This is another project where it's for cured in place sewer lining. It's a pretty sensitive area right next to the creek, and it is our trunk main that runs down there. So this will be a good one to get done, and it will save me some late nights thinking about it. And then last we have on there the Water Conservation Ambassador Program. This was a program that we had paired up with CBT previously and had it in place for about 5 years. And we did see some improvements on the consumption rates in Kimberley. So we'd like to bring that back on board for a little bit of education with the general public, hopefully, and maybe we can see some of our consumption going down in the future. I think that's about it.
I just have one question. Outstanding, Rob. Thank you very much. You make it sound so easy. Anything but. Go ahead, Councilor McBain.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Rob. We're for the new slip lining project there along the creek, where's the entry? What, like entry and exit points, where are those going to be at?
So right at the bottom end where the trying to think what the street name is, just right where the trail starts, we have a manhole that we go in there. And we'd actually be going to each of the individual manholes all the way down there. So typically what they do is they just do manhole to manhole. So then what they do is they set up a pig above and then they'd have to overland it across that section while they end up putting the liner in place. So yeah, there's still the trail there. The trucks can get access, and if there's a longer section, they can actually do a fairly long stretch. So they might be able to skip a couple of manholes where it tightens up on the trail. That will be more up to the contractors. Typically, we have two people that bid on it, two separate companies, and they're really quite good. Either one of them would be lucky if we get those guys in. So
Awesome. Thank you, Rob.
yeah.
Appreciate it. Go ahead, Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rob, could you give me a quick sample of the difference between city lighting and, say, BC Hydro? What's
Okay.
an example?
So in certain areas of the council, like say the new subdivision down in Marysville, the Marysville Views, that lighting in there, you'll see that it's a little bit of a different style. It's kind of a bit of a hook down there. That's city lighting. Any of the lighting around the Plattsville, some of the ski hill areas, a couple of the areas in Norton Ave, those are all city lighting areas. Typically, it's just the poles. Throughout the rest of the town, you'll see all the wood poles. Anything that you'll see that's doubled up where they have, you'll have telecommunications and BC Hydro wiring on it. Those are all our BC Hydro lights. So
Okay, so we're still buying hydroelectricity, but using our own poles. Is that how it works?
yeah, for some of the areas.
Yeah.
Some of them are maintained through BC Hydro. Any of the wood poles that we have, the davit arms that come off of, BC Hydro maintains those for us. We just pay the user fee associated with it.
Thank you. I don't mean to waste too much time at it. I just wondered what it would be. Thank you.
Yeah, good question, Senator. Thank you. Okay, we have two left. No pressure.
Best for last, right?
Absolutely, Troy. Planning Services, take it away.
All right, thank you. Next slide there, please. You see a lot of me. I'm Troy Pollock, Manager of Planning. Our team, which is the best team in the organization. On the planning side, we have Ariane that's been with us for just a couple of years now. Sarah is just a couple of months in. We had gone, I guess most of or all of the summer, May through August there without that second position filled, but we're lucky to find Sarah and get back up to full staffing levels here. On the building inspection side, of course, Andy Christie, many of you will know, he's been here pretty much as long as I have been. Went away for a few years to check out some other teams and decided to come back because he had so good here, I think. So, and Nate Patterson's been with us for a couple of years as well, and as a level 1 inspector, and is doing great work there. So, we as will hopefully impress here. We've have a big workload and managed to keep up fairly well. Certainly, there's some challenges here that we'll touch on as well. Just as a next slide there, sorry, just as major or just a higher level overview of what we work on. Of course, we spend a lot of our time on land use, subdivision, and development review, building permits and inspections. We work with other departments and with corporate services on the short-term rental and business license reviews. We work in municipal lands, of course, work with a bunch of other departments in this area too. So any disposition and acquisition or encroachments involving municipal lands. Transit and trails, work on that area as well. Trails is one area there's definitely a lot of overlap with other departments in terms of kind of the either the construction or maintenance. So when I speak about our role there, often we're just kind of liaising with some of those external groups that are involved in our trails. And probably more so the kind of hiking and biking trails, that kind of stuff. Climate action planning, tracking, reporting. Again, we work with all of the other departments in the organization to kind of track where we have successes and report through the annual local government climate action program. Highlights I've included from the last couple of years here, just partly because some of these projects I think kind of overlap a little bit. We're really quite proud of the housing availability and affordability amendments that council adopted back last September, or September 2022. There's a number of real key projects we're highlighting here that you know, somewhat related to some of that, but just other projects that have been in the works for a while. So the, you know, the highlights there, the 66 long-term rental units down in Marysville at the Kimberley Crossing project, the 39 long-term rental apartment building down on Jim Ogilvie Way, 17 units up on Fernie Street, recent phase 4 of Forest Crown, 41 new lots there. Some other 2 fourplex rental buildings on Warren Avenue that are starting construction here soon. We worked on the M2 zoning update and the Stoke Juicery facility that is now under construction. Was a key part of that. Of course, we're involved with the gymnastics center redevelopment as well. Worked through some of the permitting issues there with that. Same with the Marysville Daycare, which is a much needed project that Pam had spoke to earlier. And the Helping Hands Food Bank renovation and their transition to a new property there. I was just in there the other day. It's really great facility and great to see all the good stuff they're working on. Of course, we worked with other departments on the sale agreement for 505 4th Avenue, and that'll be moving into implementation of that. On the environmental compliance side of things and their zoning and DP applications coming up. Next slide there, sorry. In terms of kind of more on the building permit side of things, construction investment, having an exceptional year this year. At the end of September, we pretty much matched the construction investment from the previous year. And even within this month here, we're already over 50 million for the year. So it's really just been a exceptional year with all the multifamily housing. And on that note, we're really, some recent projects there have really helped to diversify the new housing supply. So this graphic here just shows, I think, the significant increase in multi-unit residential that we've have approved and now are under construction. With at the end of September, we had 105 units, which are all mostly multi-unit units or multi-unit residential units. And all years prior, it's always the single unit dwellings that are always the predominant one there. So. And within that too, there's been an increased diversity of unit types and sizes too. So some of the smaller units, we're starting to see the 1 and 2 bedroom smaller size units that are in great demand that we just weren't seeing on any new projects. Yeah, sorry, this is yeah, in terms of projects and policy initiatives that we have kind of on our list to work on here in the next, and I didn't want to limit this to next year because certainly some of these things will be ongoing over multiple years, but we are, there should be some BC Building Code changes released here by the end of the calendar year, and some of those may trigger some building bylaw updates. We still want to circle back on energy step code and zero carbon step code, potential changes there. Construction compliance, we're working with corporate services there on Section 57 of the community charter, what's called a notice on title. So this is an area where we sometimes have, projects that just don't sort of finish their permits or don't comply with certain elements, that we work with them kind of as much as possible to seek final compliance on that. And sometimes they just kind of refuse to carry that out. So a key tool for us to use there is what's called a notice on title. It does require some resolution of council. And we'll start to see some of those coming forward here to council here in the next few meetings. Short-term rental compliance, again, we work with other departments in this area. There's been some recent legislative changes at the provincial level that will impact that. So we'll be doing a bit of a bylaw review and procedural review there to make sure that we're keeping in line with that new legislation and kind of tweaking any aspects of that program to make sure it's functioning as best as possible. Radon awareness, there was some information released here just or provided to council at the last meeting, and we're about to undertake a new phase of the radon testing kits being made available. And we'll continue to do work there to promote and build awareness around that very important public health and safety issue. Environmental compliance on the bench lands, that's been on the list for a long time, as the mayor will attest to. There's, I mentioned earlier, the 505 4th Avenue multi-unit long-term rental project there. There's been some environmental compliance work ongoing on that site just recently, and we're hoping that that they'll be moving into the next stages here of zoning and development permit review. Purcell Collegiate continue to work with that group on that project. I think they had their own announcement about their kind of their first phase of students arriving and being facilitated at St. Eugene Mission. We just finished the subdivision aspect of that project, and I know they're working towards plans of getting that construction plan coordinated there. 304th Street mixed commercial residential project, another exciting one right for Main Street in Marysville there that council will be seeing a development permit on that here pretty soon. Next slide, please. Again, council recently approved transit expansion of the commuter service and the winter shuttle service. So we'll be working with our BC Transit partners on implementation of that in the coming year. Again, council supported policy and regulatory review of drive-throughs and gas stations. So we're been working on that and hope to have some information coming before council before too long. Housing needs assessment data update. Again, this is another area where there's been some recent legislative announcements and some need to do some work to update our needs assessment and some different reporting required there, which will also roll into official community plan updates and some timelines around that, which is I think really good move there in that area. Continue to implement the housing availability, affordability changes. So all kind of relates there. So in a way, we were really ahead of the curve and actually have already put into place some of the changes that were recently adopted by the province that will apply to other municipalities. So, but nonetheless, there's still some review and tweaking of other zones that we'll need to look at there. Development approvals, delegation of decision authority. This is an area where I think that we can be a little bit more efficient by having council support delegated decision authority on DVPs and development variance permits and development permits as just an area so you, I guess, see less of us at council, sorry, and we can deal with a bunch of those decisions at the staff level and make for a quicker timeline for development approvals. Subdivision development servicing bylaw update. We've been working with operations folks on this over the past year and have a draft bylaw that we are continuing to kind of review and I guess test as other proposals come forward. But yeah, we want to be moving that forward to council here soon and to the community to get some feedback on those changes. Nick and others had mentioned the downtown design strategy. Hope to have some next steps coming before council on that. And I just wanted to end with this one because I think it's really an important area where we need to spend some time and energy on is a refresh of our climate action planning initiatives. Number of good things we've worked on in the past with the community and corporate energy and emissions plans and the climate adaptation strategy. Really, I think overdue for a kind of a refresh on that, both for council, for staff, for the community, just to continue to build that awareness of where we're at, what are some of the challenges we're seeing already, what the outlook is, and where we can come up with some really proactive strategies to make sure that we're making good decisions around climate action and trying to help the community become more resilient in that area. So, and just a couple other notes to end. I didn't have a slide on this part, but just in terms of challenges for the department, I mentioned earlier we had some staff turnover where we went through the summer with just the one planner. In both of our areas, they're pretty high demand professions, I guess. There's wage wise, we don't compete very well with other communities within our region or throughout the province. So it's always a concern of mine of losing our really good team members there. I think we spend a lot of time on the development review, building approval side of things, because it's necessary. We have a high volume of work in that area, but it really does distract from the time we have available to work on some of the more proactive and long-term strategic planning initiatives. And I think too, just you see a lot of us at council meetings. I've been trying to think about some strategies around that area where, like the 2 meetings a month is sometimes really a challenge for us to kind of keep up with. There's a lot of work in between before and after those meetings. So, sometimes I think if it was a once per month thing that you see us at those meetings, or like I said before, the development delegation of development authority on some of those decisions would help save us a lot of time in some of that area there. So I think that's all I have.
Awesome, Troy. Thank you for the presentation. I think you and Pam are in a dead heat for most diverse responsibilities. There's no question about that. You've got just a lot of different things to deal with. Council, any questions or comments for Troy before we move on to our last presentation? All right, outstanding. So just a couple of comments, if I may.
Yep.
The $50 million is higher than any year when the resort was being built out. If I remember correctly, there were 2 big years amounting to about 80 or 90 million. The biggest was 43 or 44, I think. So I'm not sure that there was ever a year other than maybe in the Cominco building the concentrator kinds of years where we've hit 50 million. And the other comment I'd like to make is on the provincial housing announcements that came out last week. I sat through the webinar that the Assistant Deputy Minister put on, and we're not only done, I mean, we're in good shape, but we were one of the reference communities for the work that they were doing with respect to these announcements. They referenced Auckland, New Zealand, Victoria, Vancouver, Kelowna, and Kimberley. So that was pretty awesome to listen to. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you.
Great work.
You bet. Thanks.
Okay, last presentation of the evening. I will turn this over to Maurice to talk about administration and corporate services. And I see you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 slides, 11 slides.
So no pressure. Maybe I can do the presentation in French so I can speak faster.
All right. Whatever you choose to do. Take it
Okay.
away.
So I think you've heard a lot about corporate administration with all the orientation training that we did with council. So I'm going to go as fast as I can. The department role is to preparing for council and committee agenda, as well as providing administrative support to the mayor, councilors, and chief administrative officer. We also provide for the entire organization legislative and policy support, and as well as we ensure full compliance with relevant legislation and city policies. We share the role of preparing the annual report with the Department of Finance and Department of Communication. And we've been producing award-winning annual reports in line with the GFOA financial reporting for the last 5 years. And our role is as well to conduct the election and also conduct the election for the school district number 6. In the last election, we had to follow COVID protocol, which was a challenge, and required us to move our location for general voting day to McKim. And unfortunately, we had a very low voter turnout for Kimberley. So that was disappointing, but was really proud of the entire election process, how smooth it went. And I'm also really proud that I've been requested by the ministry to be part of a committee for the next election. So that was kind of nice. I'm representing the small municipalities in BC. I'm responsible for the final approval on business licensing, which requires a lot of coordination with the other department, with fire and building, doing the inspections of the facilities, and making sure that health approval is received from Interior Health. I also liaise with the RCMP on different issues, where the department is responsible for processes related to freedom of information requests, and as well as records management, where we're supposed, corporate officer is supposed to be the custodian for the important documents of the city, including minutes, city bylaws, and agreements. I also manage bylaw enforcement and animal control. And I can't believe that the planning department forgot the controversial public hearing for in their 2023 highlights. For corporate administration, it was quite a challenge. We received more correspondence for that unique public hearing than we've received in full years. So it was definitely challenging, but also I think we can be really proud of the way things have were implemented and how it was received. I think for me, a big highlight of 2023 was that council I added one position to my department, which is the deputy corporate officer, and which led to the promotion of Vicky Lucas as for that position. Vicky started 3 weeks before COVID. So that was a huge challenge, trying to train remotely and to bring her up to speed. But she's definitely thrived in her role as executive assistant, and then was promoted as deputy corporate officer. And the exciting news as well is that we now have a new administrative assistant, Jasmine Nelson, who started in September and has already been very helpful for the department and brings a lot of new energy. So I think being the last one, I have bragging rights to say that I have the most awesome team in the city. But
Well, I guess we don't need to go any further.
it's not that.
You need to have like a mic drop.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on the records management level, we are like a few boxes away from having all the property portfolios files scanned. We used the external contractor to do that, and it's been a very successful project. So we'll keep working through external contractor to do those scanning projects. Freedom of information. So 122 property requests from realtors, very busy real estate market in Kimberley. 21 standard for freedom of information, which are really the big lengthy freedom of information. Bylaw enforcement, animal control, we've implemented a really tight process for disputed and unpaid tickets. And the Sean Lever, who's our bylaw enforcement officer extraordinaire, has been going to court regularly in Cranbrook and getting those unpaid tickets to be paid and payments agreement to be set up by the judge. We've also having a steady increase in dog licensing and licensing, business license and intercommunity. We're going with like a annual revenue of 61,000. And short-term rental, that's also the final approval also falls under me as a business license inspector. So department challenge, records management is still a big challenge. We've definitely made steady progress in the last 6 years that I've been here. But because we were like, we had capacity issues, we were definitely running that on the side of our desk. So I'm really hoping that the addition of Jasmine in the department's gonna we're going to be able to kind of make more progress. A lot of our older vital records are still not in electronic format, so which makes search really hard. And we've also running into lack of storage of archive. So challenges, as Troy mentioned, having like in the fall and winter months, having meetings every second, like almost every week is definitely a challenge because we need to find like spots in between meetings to do our other work. And we also have no coverage for the bylaw enforcement officer when he's away. So that's definitely a challenge. 2024, supporting the new accessibility committee, records management, and we also, one of the big thing that I have on like that I'm seeing in 2024 is making sure that corporate admin has this business continuity plan for in case of emergency, and it's streamlining business licensing. With bylaw enforcement, I really need to look into the implementation of bylaw notice enforcement and as well as work on the safe work procedure because the bylaw enforcement officer is my most high-risk position, as well as working on some privacy compliance requirement for the addition of a body camera to the bylaw enforcement officer uniform. And it's some recent events in the that we had to deal with that led to doing that, like moving forward with that, knowing that the bylaw enforcement officer works alone. And so, and bylaw, the big one is the streets and traffic bylaw that needs a big review. And so the position for the department are the CAO, which is at the top of the organization, corporate officer, deputy corporate officer, and administrative assistant. And we also have two municipal employees that work for the RCMP detachment that fall under corporate administration. And I think
Wow.
I'm done.
Impressive. Thank you, Maurice. That was a great overview too. Thank you. Council, questions or comments?
Merci.
All right. Go ahead, Scott.
Well, I hate to see it, but there's a lot of controversy over what's the best team at City Hall. So I figured I should weigh in as your fearless leader here. Hired everyone in this room, with the exception of Troy, who was here before I got here, and Rob, who I promoted a few years back. But the answer to the question of who has the best team here at City Hall is me. I have the best team at City Hall. I'm so proud of you all. You've done such a great job with your presentations. Council's in great hands with you. My last few meetings are here, and you guys are awesome. You do a great job. Council, you're lucky to have these guys, this team I've assembled, and I'm really proud of you guys. So
Well,
that's the answer to who won.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. I think that was one of the primary objectives in going through these presentations tonight is to bring everybody at council up to speed with currency. I mean, everybody touches some people and some pieces of departments from time to time, but rarely do we get a chance to get the full view. Thanks, folks. Really appreciate the time and effort in putting them in and taking the time to be here tonight to present to council. We do have an in-camera item, hopefully relatively short. So could I have a mover to go in camera? Councillor McBain, thank you. Councillor Dunneback seconds. All those in favor? The motion is carried. All right. Thanks again, everyone.